peer-driven wellness. Simply stated, friends help us feel better and play a significant role in how we manage a serious illness, loss, or upheaval in our lives. Ask a small child who their friends are, and they will give you a very long story about everybody in their class and why they are their best friend. Sally and I are taking swimming lessons. Timmy and I hate green beans. Kelly and I have the same pink dress, and we like to wear it on the same day so we can be twins. If you are a parent, teacher, or coach, you've had these conversations. As children, we innately know that our friends make life easier. They play with us, they trust us, and they support us when things aren't going well. Children are used to asking for and accepting help, so they don't think anything of showing a weakness or offering to help another person. We can learn a lot from how kids help each other. As we go through school, the friendships start to narrow as we focus on clubs, sports, the arts, and the classes that we take. There are significant shifts in our peer groups as we progress through school, choose different paths as teenagers, and what we do after high school. By the time we begin the adult phase of our lives, most of our peer groups have very little resemblance to the size or depth of the friendships that we had as young children. Life becomes consumed with jobs, chores, and family obligations. We've been told that as adults we should behave as a grown-up and not expect other people to solve our problems. Our friendships have also become more superficial and passive, such as our coworkers, our neighbors, and the parents of our friends, our kids' friends. Only when we experience a significant change in our lives do we realize how small our circle has become. When our daughter was almost 2 years old and I was about to have my son, my husband and I were moved to a new town where we didn't know anyone. While he worked, my life was filled with boxes and babies. My friends back home had gone on with their lives and their jobs, and I was suddenly very alone. Thankfully, my husband noticed that this once active person was likely approaching depression. He encouraged me to find opportunities to reach out and meet new people, and especially find some adult interaction. Over the next year, my circle began to grow as I met other moms with whom I shared the similar experiences of raising children, caring for our marriages, and somehow also caring for ourselves. Over the years, we all eventually returned to work, which brought its own challenges in the form of time management, guilt, and personal fulfillment. As each of us navigated these waters, the circle was there for each other, with encouragement, a broader perspective on our own successes and failures, and an occasional admonishment when we were getting out of balance. My story of upheaval and emotional stress was really easy to fix. I have been lucky. Today, as the executive director of Wellness House, I meet people every day who have received the devastating diagnosis of cancer, face the pain of losing a loved one, and manage a daily battle with depression, chronic pain, and mental illness. Interestingly enough, it is the happiest place I have ever worked. I remember the first time I walked through the doors for a meeting and the immediate feeling of peace and hope. That day I learned how this organization became an oasis to thousands of people every year, and how they managed to do it at no cost to the people seeking the services. Over the last 32 years, Wellness House has survived as a grassroots, independent nonprofit that only answers to the needs of our clients and this community. This is made possible by peers, volunteers, and a dedicated group of donors who ensure that the services are free to people facing an emotionally and financially devastating time in their life. Since our founding, all of the people have been committed to Wellness House's vision, creating communities of hope and support. Let's break that down. Creating. By using people's unique skills, a little imagination, and some luck, something spectacular can result. Communities. These are our villages, our peers, our relationships. Hope. This is optimism, courage, desire. Support. To care, to lift, and to assist in any way. Creating communities of hope and support. Friends helping friends. That's peer-driven wellness. From the moment of cancer diagnosis, a patient is a survivor. They are surviving their cancer, their treatment, and the roller coaster that follows those fateful words, "You have cancer." There is no question that we have made great strides in the treatment and long-term survivorship of cancer as a disease, but these statistics don't mean a lot to the newly diagnosed. The words in the room get larger and larger, while their world shrinks down to figuring out how they will manage appointments, care for their family and finances, and the uncertainty of their own future. If only they had a friend like we had as children who could say, "It will be all right, and I will be there with you." Just like childhood, the best person for this role is someone who has had the same experience. When we bring together a group of cancer survivors, they share their stories of receiving the news, their treatment, and the many emotions that have gone along with this journey. They arrive as strangers, and an hour later are friends and members of a peer group that they never expected or wanted to join. At a recent support group for breast cancer survivors, one of the new members commented on how much it meant to her to spend time with other people who had faced the same disease. These women were able to share their emotions without fear of upsetting a family member or a friend, or even a total stranger who made a well-meaning but ignorant comment about their cancer. One of them commented that she had once again been told, "Since you have had cancer, I bet you find it easier to value and find joy in the smaller things in life." Although the survivor knew this friend believed it to be true, there was nothing further from the truth. This woman's life had been invaded by cancer, and it would never again be far from her mind. In that conversation, these women learned that they had all received that same message of so-called support and had wondered why they never felt that sense of relief or appreciation that everyone kept telling them about. Suddenly, they felt better because they had friends who made them feel normal. In peer-supported wellness, the attendees learn how to cope with a new description of normal. They remember that it is okay to show vulnerability and to reach out for help. After all, it takes strength to admit that you need help. It is easier to reach out to a support system because we know they won't feel pity for our diagnosis or give us the answers they think we want to hear. And they won't add to that sensation that we are once again overburdening a friend or a family member. When you ask another person how they managed a situation, you give them an opportunity to find value in their own experiences and to be able to help another person. You allow them to feel stronger because they made you stronger. These groups become each other's mentor, coach, and cheerleader. With scheduling these days, we only have limited access to our medical professionals, so this group can help define the questions to ask at the next appointment. They answer the phone in the middle of the night when the fears hit, and they check on each other after a procedure. Some of them even go to doctor's appointments together to ensure that they document all of the information. This helps provide knowledge and education, which lessens the fear of the unknown. In my experience, the medical professionals welcome this team approach because they know that survivorship greatly improves with the education, empowerment, and tenacity of that patient. This strength comes from the combined forces of friendship, experienced facilitators, and a determination to thrive together. Volunteers facilitate many of the groups at Wellness House. This serves the practical purpose of controlling costs, but the real value lies in the impact that it has on the members of that group. When you have a cancer support group facilitator introduce themselves to a newly diagnosed person by saying, "I am a 21-year stage 4 survivor of the same cancer that you are battling," that patient sees hope. Medical advancements can only do so much to help a person pursue survivorship. The rest lies in the patient's belief that they can win this battle. Suddenly, in front of them, there's a thriving person who is able to answer those questions. How did you survive? Do you still have the same fears I wake up with every day? Did you ever just want to give up? These powerful questions can only be asked of a person who has walked that same path. By answering these, the facilitator empowers the group while showing their own vulnerability. They find in themselves their own continued willpower to be a strong advocate for survivorship and that re-energizes their determination to be well and to thrive. The peer-driven wellness methods that I have described for the cancer support groups are also used by the other clients at Wellness House. We have groups for grief and loss, depression, chronic pain, families, and the caregivers who are impacted by that devastating diagnosis or loss. In each of the groups, the attendees find strength in lifting each other up, finding ways to cope with the new reality, and learning to move forward with a sense of well-being. Peer-driven wellness teaches us that there is more to me than the illness or loss. We can share a common experience and then go forth into the world stronger and more empowered to advocate for ourselves and others. When we feel like we are struggling, we can reach back into those friendships and get an infusion of hope. As we work through the upheavals in our life, we become stronger and we start to share the power with others, sometimes without even realizing what we are doing. At Wellness House, we often watch a client grow stronger physically and emotionally, like that 21-year cancer survivor, and we celebrate their milestones as they learn to rely on their newfound friends, skills, and confidence. Peer-driven wellness leads to a metamorphosis in healing. A person can progress from the initial meeting when they arrive in crisis and meet people who gladly share their support, to the day that that same person shares their story with the newest arrival, to making a one-on-one connection as a peer mentor, to facilitating that group that they arrived at, to becoming a vocal ambassador and recruiter for more people to utilize peer-driven wellness, to finally feeling well enough to volunteer by creating a new group, assisting the staff, and raising money to help support Wellness House. At this point, they are paying forward to ensure that thousands of people will find hope and support through peer-driven wellness. This is when peer support actually becomes peer-driven wellness. As an independent nonprofit that does not charge their clients, Wellness House has limited resources to promote the services and programs that are available to anyone in crisis. Thankfully, we have strong partners who want to do this for us. At Wellness House, our greatest promotion comes from the people who have used our services and want to share that experience with others. If you have ever been given a packet of information from a doctor prior to an upcoming procedure, you know what I mean when I say there's a lot to decipher and to understand. For a person facing a new diagnosis or loss, there is so much paperwork, scheduling, and emotional adjustment that it becomes an effort just to get through the highest priorities, and we rarely acknowledge that our own self-care is a high priority. In this situation, it would be nice if someone would give us a roadmap on this journey, preferably one that provides stops along the way to visit with friends, simplifies the navigation, and has plenty of time to rest and recharge. Peer-driven wellness makes all of this possible. This is how many people find their way to Wellness House. A friend who has faced the same overwhelming challenges tells them about the programs, suggests that they go to Wellness House, or better yet, brings them for a visit and a tour. Let me tell you about a group that meets at Wellness House every Monday. They knit prayer shawls for anyone facing an illness, a loss, or a difficult time in their life. Once they have collected about a dozen shawls, they lay them out and they recite a non-denominational prayer of support for the person who will be the eventual recipient. That is the technical reason of why this group meets, but that is not the true reason why they are there. This group exemplifies the entire process of peer-driven wellness. Every person in the group has benefited from the programs and services at Wellness House, whether it was personally or through a friend. At some point, they had a moment of facing mortality and hopelessness. They found their way through this trauma with the help of a friend they made at Wellness House, and they began to give back by being a mentor or bringing another person to benefit from the mutual strength of a group meeting. They started to volunteer in the office or at the fundraisers, and they formed an everlasting bond. They've gone on to create this group, and they are their own driving force behind what keeps it successful. Each week, I hear them laughing and sharing stories. They celebrate each other's birthdays. They send cards to a member who is ill, or they share news about one of them who has moved away. When we are closed for a holiday, they make plans and they have meals together, and they go to movies. When tragedy is struck, like the recurrence of cancer, an accident, or the recent death of one of their members, they gather together to support each other. Every member of this group knows illness, but because of these bonds, they are healthier, happier, and they are thriving. Their efforts are spreading beyond Wellness House as they share their love and handiwork with the shawls that are literally blanketing this community. In closing, let me define peer-driven wellness in 7 steps. 1, make friends. 2, build a support system. 3, ask for help. 4, be a friend. 5, volunteer. 6, mentor. And 7, thrive. Thank you very much.